Hello everyone, welcome back to our Flipaclip tutorial series. In the last video we examined the first 6 animation principles, which you can of course see here. Today we are going to complete the series of, animation principles by explaining the last few ones. So let's dive right into it with slow in and slow out. Alright, we have a little car here. And so a bit of theory first. In real life, objects rarely start or stop moving instantly. They build up speed gradually, which is the slow in, then they go full speed, and then they slow down at the end of their movement, which is the slow out principle. In animation, this is done by adjusting the spacing of the drawings or, the keyframes. And if we have more frames close together, we have slower movement. If we have fewer frames that are farther apart, the movement will be, of course, faster. This creates a fluid transition into and out of the action. It's important because it improves realism and adds appeal and elegance and clarifies important moments and supports physics and momentum. So I'm gonna play the animation now. And as you can see here, let's examine it frame by frame. Okay, so the car moves slowly at first. And as you can notice, the space between each frame gradually grows larger. As you can see here, it gains velocity for this part of the canvas and then it slows down. The frames gradually get closer together and the car, of course, brakes in. And we have a little, overlapping action of, stopping. And as you can see here, it starts slow, goes fast, and then slows down again, as you can see here. And basically, animators apply it to add more in between frames near key poses. They apply it spreading out frames in the middle of motion, and that's it for slow in and out. There's not really much to say aside from mind the number of frames that you've got in your animation. Alright, let's get back to our summary. And we have overlapping actions now. Now I animated this little cat. I want you guys to guess where are the overlapping animations now. And you guessed correctly if you said in the fur and later in the ears. So basically overlapping action and follow through is the animation principle that makes movement feel fluid, organic, and physically accurate by ensuring that different parts of the body, or the object of course, move at different times rather than starting and stopping immediately all at once. And it means that when a movement ends, flexible parts keep going, like in this case, the fur. Once the characters start moving, the movement of the fur is slightly delayed, as you can see here. And also the mouth drags, it moves at a different speed before reaching, the final pose. And of course, the different body parts in this case do not move together. In this case, it's the fur and the ears to a certain degree, but it can also be used for clothing. For example, if a character moves with a cape on top of its shoulders, the cape will of course have its movement delayed. And it's important because it adds realism, physics, improves fluidity, creates believability and personality, and it clarifies the hierarchy of movement. When you think about doing an animation of this kind with very fast movement and that requires follow through in the character's action, you have to imagine that some body parts move first, others move in the middle, and others reach, the character a bit later. This can be seen, for example, in a character running, holding an object with a cape, or in hair or fur. They can also be used in jump and landing, and animal tails or ears, and so on. Animators apply it by identifying the leading part of the movement Usually this is the hip, or the chest, and they let the other parts react with delays. They use arcs, which is a principle that we've seen in the last video, to refine the motion, and they avoid moving everything at the same time unless, the character is extremely stylized and there is no other way to achieve an animation. And so that's it for the overlapping principle. And we can go on to the next one, which is not really a principle, it's more like theory. It's two methods of animations that you can use. Straight ahead and pose to pose are two different animation methods that determine how you plan and create the motion. Most animators use a blend of both. Depending on the situation, can be useful to use straight ahead or pose to pose. Straight ahead animation is basically animating frame by frame in sequence from the first drawing to the last, discovering the action as you go. It produces spontaneous, energetic motion, fluid, unpredictable actions, and so on. It's useful for creating action scenes, and it's ideal for organic effects like fire, water, smoke, hair, cloth, or maybe if you draw an explosion or something like that. It can be useful to use straight ahead animation in order to create unpredictability. But it is harder to keep consistent in proportion and volumes. Timing can drift if you're not too careful, and it's difficult for long, complex scenes with clear, subdivision in animation. While pose to pose means planning out your key poses first, which is what I do personally most of the time, then adding frames in between and breakdowns and so on. This produces structured, intentional animation. The poses are very clear, the storytelling is also very clear, and it's very reliable for timing. And it's perfect for character acting, emotional scenes, dialogue. It keeps proportions consistent and, on model. The volume stays the same, and it allows directors, leads, usually in the industry of animation, to review key storytelling poses before, diving into the details, which usually take a long time, and it works extremely well in digital workflows using keyframes. But it can feel stiff or overplanned, and it requires more upfront thinking, of course. Combined approach would be a hybrid, which is pose to pose for main storytelling poses and straight ahead for parts that need fluidity, clothes, hair, basically everything that uses follow-through animation principle, which we've just seen, and so on. So basically that's it for this principle. I did not prepare an animation for this one because it's mainly, it's just a technique. You can choose to do whatever you want. Then we have solid drawing. Solid drawing is the animation principle that focuses on giving character objects believable form, weight, structure, even when done on a 2D surface. In this case, I chose to focus on the volume by drawing this little girl, which has the head shaped like a ball, and this ball is spinning. And of course, we have each frame, which is a different angle of her face. But as you see here, the volume stays consistent, the perspective stays correct, we have consistent proportions, and awareness of, where the objects are placed on her head. Creates believable characters, keeps character consistent, and it improves clarity of action, enables dynamic character angles. So of course this is in our case because it's a very simple animation. And of course this one supports all the other principles that we have seen so far. Its key components are construction, perspective, weight, balance. We also have silhouette clarity and line of action. Of course, the line of action is extremely important. Basically, it can be said that when a character does something, it does it following an arc or a line, and this can help achieve, weight and consistency in your animation. turning a character's head can be, hard, but using this principle you can actually achieve it by, drawing each frame one after the other. So I also applied the straight ahead method for this one, and it came out pretty good. And so on. So basically this is all for solid drawing. And then we have the secondary action principle, which is one of the most underrated in my opinion. Secondary action is the animation principle that adds supporting movements to strengthen the main action. The secondary motion do not distract or compete, they enhance the animation by adding personality. So basically, a main action is the primary thing a character is doing. A secondary action is any smaller motion that happens at the same time and helps communicate emotion, personality, and other nuances. In this animation, which I'm gonna make you see, if you spotted it right, you should have spotted the little, eyes and blushing while the character eats. This conveys a lot of personality, and also the way his expression changes while he bites into the bread. This adds depth and complexity, enhances personality, it clarifies emotion, and improves realism. We can also apply it to talking characters, whose main action is speaking, and secondary action are hand gestures, eyebrow movements, shifting weight, maybe even blinking. Blinking is also effective as a secondary action, let's not forget that. And, you have to make everything clear in order to achieve this, look. We must avoid clutter. Simplicity reads better than too many competing motion. And that's it for this principle. And now we are going to go to appeal, which isn't a strictly animation, principle per se. It can be also said about character design. So here I've done an example about this character, which has been designed in the first version, which you can see here, to be very simple. You can't even tell he's a villain. But then I redesigned the characters so that his expression stayed more or less the same, because I did like the expression on the first one, but I added personality by changing the outfit and adding more details to, the whole character. And appeal basically creates more interesting character, and it basically ensures characters, poses, and scenes are engaging, attractive, and interesting to look at. Basically, appeal is a melting pot of the principles we've seen so far. If we apply correctly the principles that we've seen so far, the animation will be appealing. This can be helped with clear shapes, strong posings, good proportions, visual clarity, personality, and charisma. Basically, appeal means your spectators will be glued to the screen as they watch the animation. And basically, the best way to achieve this is creating engaging character designs and animating them well. If you are interested in learning more about character design, there's a video on the channel in the Procreate tutorial series in which I explain how to draw a few archetypes of characters. I definitely recommend checking that one out. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this.